Are you listening? Damn. Yeah.
Hey, everybody, it's Christine Drummond, and I'm here with my co-host, Joel Lord, and you are listening to another episode of Boss Talks, and we are so flippin' excited that you're here listening to this today. And if you didn't catch our last podcast, oh my gosh, it was a gold mine. Like, get your notepads out, go and listen to our last episode. We talk about how health and business should be entwined and how one affects the other. But today, Joel, we are talking about losership versus leadership. And some of you may be offended by this episode on our podcast because we're going to get real. We're going to get raw. And we're probably going to kick our own butts as well as our listeners' butts today. And if you love this content, we only ask of you that you share it, because we want to be able to gift other people with this information. So today we are talking all things losership versus leadership. And what do we mean by that? Well, for me, and I heard someone, use this terminology the other day. And what we were sort of meaning by losership versus leadership is, how are you leading yourself? Not just in your everyday life, but in your business, in your entrepreneurial realm and space, in your relationships, in the family, in your finances. How are you showing up every day? And here's how you differentiate whether you're being in the losership space or the leadership space. When things are going really, really well, this is what losers do. They get comfortable. They stop stretching. They stop growing. They stop coming from a place of gratitude. They start thinking, oh, this is all too easy. They take their foot off the pedal. Leadership is when your business is in decline or life is in decline. Things like universe is throwing things at you, and you're still showing up with the same level of enthusiasm and energy from when you are crushing it. Does that make sense? So we want to make sure that you guys maintain a certain frequency. You're tuning into the right frequency. You're maintaining a certain vibrational level that is going to allow you to attract the abundance into your life that you truly want. So, Joel, what are your thoughts around this topic? Because I know as soon as you heard it, you loved the title.
Yeah, well, I love it because right now it's something that's really in my reticular activating system. I'm seeing a lot of losers out there bitching and complaining about the way things are because they don't have the guts to stand up for themselves and what they believe in. So you just got to make a choice. Are you going to stand up for what you believe in and go after it, or are you just going to sit back and complain about it all the time? So I've gone and shut my phone down. I had something up there. I'm going to read something that I read today, and it's from Andy Priscilla, and I just got off a call with Andy Priscilla, and so I'm packing heat with this stuff today. I'm prepared, extra prepared. So, but he says he keeps seeing a ton of bullshit internet memes about winning in silence and hiding your wins because it's impolite to share your success, or just to spare someone's feelings. Really? Think about this. If all winners kept their wins private, how is the next generation of people supposed to understand how to win? How do they know what winning looks like? How will you inspire more and more people? Winning is amazing and should never be apologized for or hidden. If people don't want to see you win, then fuck them. Let them watch in pain. They are only upset because they're unwilling and unnecessary to do the work to win themselves. We need more people showing off their wins unapologetically, not less. So, speaking about last week's podcast, Christine, we both jumped on there and admitted that we're in business because we would like a lot of money in our life. We would like more money. We'd like to grow. We want to expand. We want to do all those things. And I know that triggered people. I know, because when I said it, you said it, and you actually mentioned that it was going to trigger people because you're probably on the ground speaking to people a lot more than me at the moment. I'm like in the lab working away on this new project. And but yeah, like when I was out there coaching, you know, it was a bit of a taboo subject in a lot of ways. Like people want to play small. And seriously, it's just, that is just losership to me, you know? And like, I'm pointing at myself when I say this because, you know, you're just as big a loser if you think you've made it and you're just playing off your last wins. You know, like I have a history of success in business. And if I just didn't do what I'm going for now and I just rested on my laurels and just lived my life out, well, then, like the old saying, if you're not growing and you're standing still, you're actually going backwards. If you're not expanding, you're contracting. If you're either building an empire or you're destroying it, like what are you doing? And yeah, it's like, it's something that I get really passionate about because none of the people out there, or a great majority of people that you would be looking at that are successful, they're not smarter than us. They've just done the work. Success isn't magic, it's work, you know? And people just want this part-time, sit on a beach, like do nothing, press refresh on their bank account and watch their bank account filling up. And they've been sold this lie. The truth is, and I know like we've both got ties in the industry of network marketing, you know, like I don't believe any of the people that are on humongous wages, and not wages, that's a taboo word. So like income, are doing like are sitting on a beach, just pressing refresh, and you know, they've worked. There's no road to wealth and leadership without putting in the work. And if they're not working now, they've done it in the past. So I don't know if anyone's listening after this point but it's just true. Like I've tried, I've looked for the easy way. It doesn't exist. It does not exist. At some stage, you're going to have to pull the trigger, take a risk, have a go, and just decide that what you want is worth going for, and you're going to go for it no matter what, because one day you're going to be on your deathbed, or you're going to be 70 or 80, 90, and there will be no more time. And you'll look back and go, if only I'd swung the bat then, things could have been totally different. Anyway, I'm still prepared. I could go on for hours.
I love that, mate. And, you know, we're not judging anyone in this podcast. And Joel and I are very quick to take responsibility for our own journey and the situations that we've found ourselves in. And I have many times played on the side of losership. And I was one of those people that got very comfortable, and I stopped looking at that SWOT analysis, which we all learn at the basic business level, your strengths, weaknesses, and opportunities and threats. And I dismissed the threats. And so I got comfortable and I stopped growing. And then the threats came along and wiped out a big chunk of my business. So, you know, watching your pay line, your bottom line decline and your income. Now, most people, that would take them out of the game. But I know that this is business. And I know what I'm capable of. I know where our business was previously. And I know that we can far exceed where it was as well. So we are talking from experience, because we have been on the side of losership probably more times than we've been on the side of leadership. But something that Joel and I are very good at is leading by example, you know, walking our talk. You know, we don't share stuff on here and say that we do it, and then we don't actually do it in the background. You know, we're very careful. And it was the same when I was a personal trainer. I never, ever gave my clients a workout or a session or a boot camp that I hadn't done myself, so I could understand what they were going to experience. And I think that's what sets us apart from, you know, other coaches, other podcasters that are out there, is, are people really living their truth? Are they really walking their talk? You know, and that's what we want you guys to do, in alignment with your values as well, which is super, super important. So this is not about pointing fingers. This is about looking in the mirror and going, which side of the line am I on? Am I showing up, as that leader, as the leader that I know I can be in my business, as the leader that I know I can be in my household, as the leader I know I can be in my finances? Here's the thing about finances. Like, I know a lot of people out there that complain about their lack of money, and they complain about scarcity, and they don't see the world abundantly like we do, but they don't ever go and study it. They don't ever go and do anything to make that shift in mindset that's going to allow new space, new energy to be created to allow more money to come in. Does that make sense, guys? Like, we really want you to get this. If you're listening to this and maybe things are on the decline, or maybe you're not financially where you thought you'd be by now, it's okay. You are exactly where you're meant to be. But don't whinge and complain when you're not actually doing anything to grow your skill set in that area. So I really, like, if you want more money, then go and learn how to create more money. Go and be open to more opportunities. And, I just caught up with a beautiful friend of mine who's in her 60s, and she's got this amazing group of women in their 60s. And the group's all about, no, we're not unwinding, ladies. This is a time for us to reinvent ourselves. This is a time for us to really get going in life, rebrand and get out there and have some fun and connect. And, she was saying that she is so phenomenal in looking for opportunities to get paid. And there's actually like over 50 complexes, like the retirement type complexes that they've got now, where you can have your own home or your own condo or something, but you're in this community of people that are, the similar age and got all these social things on. So she got paid $500 to go and take a group of 20 women to this luxurious, amazing, over 50s place in Brisbane, to introduce them to a new group of people. Like, how cool is that? Like $500. How many of you reckon you could get a group of 20 people to go and look at something like that? Like, you've got to start thinking outside the box, guys. There's so many ways to earn money. It's ridiculous, and don't feel like just because you're skilled in one area that you don't have life skills that could be beneficial in another. And some of you are so creative and have like hobbies that you could absolutely turn into another stream of income. And then what if that stream of income sat in another account that you didn't touch, that compounded over 10 years? Like, you had an extra $250. We've spoken about this on another podcast. $250 a week going into an account compounds over 10 years to about $1.6 million. I think that was right, wasn't it, Joel? Was that figure? I might have to check that figure. But it was a lot, right? It's the compounding effect.
Yeah, well, it certainly, the longer you leave it in there, and I used to do it for our presentations, it was just off 8%, and over 25 years, really starting with bugger all, you can end up with $2.4 million. Like, that's just for someone who's got a wage can do that. And you know what is crazy? Along the way, like, as at the time of recording, if you could take that money and then put it into, an investment, and let's just say property, because that's what I'm interested in. If you bought a house right now, like, with the way the market is, like, you can really get some gains in there, it's crazy. And very quickly, the extra money you're going to get from that can really change the game, but you've got to have the guts to take the risk and actually go for it, So I know, Christine, you're all about inoculating people so they know what to expect. And, it's something I like to do. And like I said before, I was on a call with Andy Priscilla earlier on today, and he was doing the same thing for a group. And he's saying, like, first of all, you got to care about winning. If you want to be a leader, you must care about winning. We're not talking about winning 8th place trophies here. We've got to have a winner's mindset, Like, I hear so often people complaining about the rich getting richer. and, holding the poor people down. It's like, well, at some stage, most of those people were also poor and they just got sick of it and they decided to do something about it. And they became very passionate about it and emotional. And you hear people also say, and you can tell, and you got to take this with context, but they say emotion has no place in business. Well, in context, business decisions could be made without emotion. You do need to step back and look at when you're planning, but you need that emotion in there. I'm emotional about winning in my company because I've got people relying on me to do my job so they can feed their family, so they can pay their mortgage. And I take that really seriously, and I'd be emotional about it. Now, if I was walking around angry and punching people in the face, that's not what I'm talking about. That's actually time to go get some help. But if you can harness that anger or whatever emotion you use to go as fuel to keep going and get a result, well, then that's really, really powerful, So like the market leaders are emotional, but they control it. So you need to write that down if you haven't. If you want to win, you need to control your emotions and aim it at the target that you're setting yourself. All right. So you're going to have 3 massive things happen to you when you want to win. All right. And these are emotions and, they can be perceived as negative. But let me tell you that they're going to come up anyway. You can go to all these concerts where these gurus stand up on stage and tell you how not to have these emotions. Well, no wonder people jump out of businesses and fail, because as soon as they have this fear, they think there's something wrong with them. You're going to have fear and anxiety when you're doing anything. If you're not, you're either not doing anything or you're lying. You know what I mean? So you're going to feel afraid. It's normal. The way that you handle this, and this is why I'm saying this right now, is so you actually can preempt what to do when you feel this emotion. It's actually like a siren going off, an alarm. If the fire alarm goes off, you know what to do, right? Get the hell out and go put the fire out. So when this alarm goes off of fear or anxiety, here's what you got to do. You got to replace it with action. Because it's very, very hard to turn a negative emotion into a positive emotion, but you can turn a negative emotion into positive action. And that's actually very easy. And then once you go and take the action, all of a sudden it's cured the fear. So I suggest using the power list. If you don't know what that is, well, Google it. This is basically turning into the Joel Loves Andy Priscilla show, but I follow it because it works. And it's going to show you how to take action every day to get towards winning, so you have some wins in the day, right? The next thing you're going to have adjustment as well. So that means when you fail and something bad happens in your business and you get knocked off, your axis, like Christine was saying before, you don't want to just sit there and cry and just let your business go into the ground or give up. You got to adjust. Because think about it. I was talking to a guy before, Christine, today, very, very successful guy, very wealthy guy. And he said he could write like a series of books on all the mistakes he's made. He's like, where all these gurus get out there and tell you how to do something, he reckons he should write a book on all the mistakes he's made, so it'll save all the people that read the book making the same mistakes. So this guy's worth millions, and he's saying that he's made so many mistakes. It's exactly what Andy Priscilla said today. He goes, you don't see the mistakes he's made because nobody knew who he was while he was making them. He just looks like he doesn't make as many now because he's further along the track, right? So you just got to learn that you're going to make mistakes, you're going to mess things up, and it's time to learn from your mistakes and work out what you're going to do, which just goes back to the power list and taking some action. So the other thing you're going to feel is despair. If if you have not felt despair in your business where you just think you've totally messed it up, there's no way out, you know, you're going to feel it. You're going to, you know, I'm talking face in your hands, shaking your head, sitting in the fetal position, thinking, oh my God, what am I going to do? I don't know how I'm going to make this work. Well, you're going to feel hopeless, you know, and it's easier, like I said before, and more effective to transform that negative emotion into a positive action. You know what I mean? So when you're feeling despair, well, you can sit there and focus on the problem, or focus on a solution and quickly go out and take action on it. So these things are going to come in your business, in your relationships, in your health, in everything you do. If you're doing something, if you're not doing something, well, then they're going to come anyway, but you won't have the resources to do anything about it. The next thing is you're going to feel disgusted. Like Christine's here just nodding, going, oh my God, sometimes I feel these every day. Like, same here. Like when this came out, I was like, yep. So there's going to be things that disgust you, especially in your work. You know, people are going to have a crappy work ethic in your business, and you're a high work ethic kind of individual. You're going to be looking at them and you're going to be disgusted. You're going to do stuff that you, in the heat of the moment, that disgusts you about yourself. You're going to have competitors do things that disgust you. You know, they're going to come in and they're going to steal your business. They're going to say slanderous things. They're going to like try to take your play lunch money, and it's going to disgust you. Well, if you don't want to feel disgusted, then you need to learn how to cultivate gratitude. Do something simple that makes you happy. Guys, happiness comes in doses. It's not there all the time. So you need to find the things in your life that make you happy and do them, like schedule them. Like what makes me happy is I like, you know, walking the dog. I like walking the dog. I like the dog doesn't give me any of these disgusting feelings. Like spending time with my kids, exercising. I love learning. Like, you know, Andy Priscilla loves his car. So, you know, he drives his car to and from work, which is a total of 12 minutes, but he loves those cars. Like, guys, if you don't take the time to enjoy your life that you've created and appreciate it, then that's an unfulfilled life. You know, like it's not worth living. It's pointless. If you don't stop and smell the roses that you've planted, and you just gone so far the other way that you're not enjoying life, like, well, then what's even the point? So you need to find the things that make you happy, that create happiness in your life, and make sure you do them, and have a menu of them. Don't just have one. Like, legitimately take the time to journal this stuff so that you've got it. And then eventually you're going to have a life so good, you're not going to need that list, because things that create gratitude and happiness are going to be all around you. Like, I need to just look at my house and I love it. I just got to look at my farm and I love it. I just got to look at my, you know, family and I love it. Like, I'm very, very lucky, but that doesn't come without work, and it comes from deliberate action. So seriously, Christine, that was a long one, but like, I just had to get through that stuff.
Yeah, but I loved it. I loved that you're giving people the real truth into what to expect, you know, because who does that? Like, and you need to know that it's not always roses. As Joel said, happiness comes in doses. It's so, so true. We chase happiness so often, but how many of us actually catch it? You know, whereas if you know that it comes and goes, and everything in humanity happens in duality, you can't have happiness without sadness, and you're always going to be ebb and flow between the both. And that should take enough pressure off you to go, oh, I'm not actually broken. I don't need fixing. This is just the universe balancing me out, or God, or your higher power that you believe in. You know what I mean? So, you know, for me, like, I was creating bad habits based around the beliefs and the habits that were instilled in me as a child. And so I wanted to create new empowering habits for my family. And I kept showing up, on the wrong side of that line in losership when it came to, I kept always complaining that I didn't get the financial education that I would have loved growing up. But then, as Kerwin Ray says all the time, like if you're complaining about something, but you're not actually part of the solution and willing to change, like I was complaining and then I wasn't teaching my kids anything better. Like for me, that's true losership. Like, why would I go, I wish I would have had more financial education and then just not go and teach my kids anything? So many of our listeners, I know, think that the school system is flawed. And I know that because we get your feedback on some of the conversations we've had on this podcast before, and you're in agreement that there should be more financial education in there. But if we keep relying on someone else to teach our kids these things, we're going to be waiting a long time, and then the opportunity will be gone, and they'll be adults with the same bad habits as us. So if you're in a shit financial situation, you can change it. If you've made bad decisions in the past, you just choose again. You get to decide again. You don't have to let it take you out of the game. So I heard Scott Page say once, and Scott Page is the author of The Barefoot Investor, and he said when he was 10 years old, his father gave him some shares. And I was like, what a cool present for a 10-year-old, So my daughter turns 10, that's her next birthday next year. So I've got this beautiful amount of time before she turns 10 that I can go and learn as much as I can around shares and which one should I set her up with. And, because I want to gift her the same thing. I want her to be interested in creating different streams of income. I've also bought her an entrepreneurial pack for kids that teaches kids different entrepreneurial skills and different ways to create income. I didn't have this as a kid, so I'm trying to break the shackles. I'm trying to create new behaviors, new patterns. Because as we know, we don't live a life, we live patterns. So we have to change the patterns, and a lot of it is handed down generationally. So, I'm doing this abundance challenge right now. And one of the activities we had to do the other day was 10 times we had to write this beautiful paragraph down, and I'll go and grab it in a moment so I can read it out to you guys. But the last two paragraphs, it basically asks your parents, your grandparents, and your ancestors to the very origin of the clan, if they ever had struggles and difficulties because of lack of money, to bless you and give you permission to live life differently. And then it calls on your parents, your grandparents, and your ancestors to the very core of the family who had prosperity and abundance to inspire you. Like, how meaningful are those two paragraphs? Because some of us are caught in, in that the family that just kept passing on bad habits after bad habits after bad habits financially. And then some of us are on the other side where we were given really good financial advice, and there was abundance and prosperity around us, and we were shown how to do that, So I really want you to go that you can change your future, your children's future. You can be the change. You can, you often hear those families that, someone will stand up and say, I was the first person in my family to go to college. I was the first person in my family to get a degree. Like, that's people shifting and breaking the shackles, willing to stand up, willing to, to grow. So for me, how am I learning about shares? Well, I'm asking people around me who are prosperous, what they invest in. I caught up with a beautiful couple here that we're really good friends with, and they're old enough to be our parents, but we treat them as friends because we just have the most amazing beautiful relationship with them. But I said to them, how did you create your wealth? Did you have shares? Did you invest in other things? And they said, no, we only ever invested in property. Okay, so then I spoke about that because I have a passion for property. So I spoke about, what's their advice? What would they advise to someone, coming into the property market? And they gave me their tips around that. And then I found somebody else that has invested in gold. That was one of their main investments that they have been doing for like 40, 50 years, So go and ask people that have the success in the areas that you would love to learn. Like, how many of you that are listening to this right now, instead of the materialistic things that we could give our kids, who would love to actually give the gift of something that keeps growing, something where they can now create their own wealth and go and invest in something else that's important to them? Like, I don't know about you, Joel, but like, I'd love that gift, like, what a cool gift to give a child.
Yeah, you're right. And the gift I'm giving my kids is, swing the bat. You're going to be wrong. And I want to give that gift to, everyone listening right now. You're going to be wrong. That guy that I was speaking about before, who's really wealthy, he did a deal and he lost $500,000. And it's relative, but it's just, there's so many people that just want 100% guarantee, and it's just not there. It's just you're never going to be 100% right. What you got to do is really just, you got to swing the bat. And this get rich quick stuff that's out there, it's just nonsense. Like, the people that I see it so much online, and they're saying all these really amazing returns, and they're talking as if they've got hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of income, and they're broke. I know they're broke. I could name and shame if I wanted to, and I won't, because I've got class. It's just that it really just cheeses me off, because they're just preying on the desperate. So don't be desperate. You want to know what the best asset class to invest in is? One that interests you. Because if I was to invest in commodities like, I don't know, coffee or grain or something like that, it would bore me to tears. I wouldn't pay attention and I'd lose all my money. But like Christine said, she's got a real interest in property, then great. That's a really good place to start. If you're interested in shares, then be interested in shares. There's people making money in all of these asset classes. They're all good if you're interested in them. People want the maximum return. Well, if it's boring, you're not going to do it. So please, like, if you take any not financial advice from me, because it certainly isn't, because I'm just a guy on a podcast talking nonsense. What I would do, and what I do is I invest in things that interest me. If it doesn't interest me, then it could be the best deal for everyone else. People could make billions of dollars, and I'm not putting the right energy into it. It's not going to work for me. It could work for the guy sitting next to me, but yeah, it's not. So, the thing I really want to get across now, this is one of those gems that will probably go, unnoticed. That's why I'm really going to emphasize on it. One of the big educational gaps between people that are successful in business and people that are not even in business is that the people that are looking to leave their jobs and go into business, they just think they're looking for the right way. It doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. Like, when you're doing a deal, you make it up. You literally get your creative hat on and you make it up. So if Christine wanted to buy a business off me and I wanted $1 million, most people would think, I need to have a deposit and go to the bank and get a loan, and that's how it is. And then they go to the bank and they're like, yeah, we're not going to loan you that money because you don't, for whatever reason. And then that's usually where it ends. But what if Christine came to me and said, Joel, what happens if I gave you $300,000 and I spent the next 10 years paying the rest off? Now, I could choose to not do that deal or do that deal, but could you see how Christine just made that up and came to me and we got a deal? It's like that. Think outside the box. Think like that. because I know what people want in a deal, but what will they take? And that isn't about screwing them out of the money or getting a better deal and, making it so you win and they lose. But how can you both win? There could be an elderly couple that's leaving a business and, they want $1 million because that's what they're going to retire on. But really all they really need right now is a couple of $100,000 so they can go buy that unit down near their grandkids. And that's really what they want. And they'd love an income because that money sitting in their bank account is making negative interest now. Do you see what I'm saying? You could actually pay them a better interest rate than the bank. So I'm not going to bore anyone with any more of this stuff that may or may not sit well, but that's the shit you got to do, guys. If you want to win, you got to make it work out. Like I could tell 1,000 stories like that where people lease a business and use the business to pay the previous owner off, so many, Christine, but I don't know. That's my little segue. I want people to win.
I love that. We are. And it's your birthright to have abundance, guys. It really is. And there's abundance all around you, but we're just so caught up in the everyday activities of life that we stop dreaming. We stop looking at the possibilities and the opportunities that are coming across our path every single day. If we just had more awareness, I think that's what it really comes down to, is having more awareness of the messages that you're being sent and the opportunities that are coming by. So I just lost what I was going to say next, but I loved what you just shared there, Joel. And we've covered so much. We've covered so much on this podcast in such a short amount of time. But what we really want you to get is that you're not a tree. Like, you can change. Like, don't just stand there, sit there, complain, judge. Like, do something, guys. Pivot, shift. And just because you failed in one thing doesn't mean you can't succeed in another. Like, you have the ability and the skills to succeed. And what you don't have, get resourceful. Go and find people that can help you. And I think that's what it's about as well. And all business is relationships. So wherever you're going, making sure you're building connections with people, you're getting resourceful, you're connecting people with other people. Be that person that is always looking to grow and to connect with people as well. And that's another way to kind of really be in that leadership all the time as well, is knowing that all business is relationships. It really is. I'm just trying to think of that other point that I had. I can't remember it.
Great point, Christine. There's no shortage of capital for good ideas. So if your idea is great, then someone out there will have the money that you need to get it going. And I know I'm being very, very businessy, but I really just want to, it's in the title, leadership versus losership. What's going to happen is when you start speaking the way we're speaking and talking about business and maybe having a different life, people are going to attack you. Well, here's my best piece of advice, the golden nugget. Here it is. Stop arguing with losers. Let them have their belief about, not wanting the private jet or not wanting the ranch or not wanting the house or the apartment of your dreams, not living on the beach, not having that big beach house that you've always wanted, not having a New York apartment, all that stuff, having a multi-million-dollar business that helps the community and supports the local, economy. You know what I mean? It helps people pay their mortgages, helps people put their kids through the school they always dream of, go on holidays. When you start speaking about that kind of stuff, you're going to very, very quickly run into resistance. And that's great. That means you're on the right track. I literally shared a post, Christine, from Sean Whalen about how he's on the road to getting the jet. In the next 18 months, he's going to have a private jet. And I looked at that, and he's worked really hard to get what he wants. And he started with $41. And that's how he built his he started his apparel business, and then he made one shirt and then sold it, then kept rolling it over. And now he's talking about getting a jet. So hats off to that dude. But a friend of mine shared the exact same post and got attacked. He got attacked in his DMs, and there's comments and like people that were just tearing down the thought of even wanting that for yourself. And like, he came back to me and was asking about it. And like, I was like, you're on the right. That's a great sign. I was like, I was happy for him. He's like, oh, but these are long life friends that I thought had my back. I'm like, dude, you're on the right track. It's you're going to have to cut them off. He's like, what sort of a person wouldn't want a jet or aspire to a jet? And I'm like, a loser. I'm not saying we're going to all get jets, but just think about it. If you're aiming for the jet, how many people have you helped along the way to be able to get that? All the other stuff for me falls in under that pinnacle of being able to do it. Now, could I make it to the end of my life and not have one? Absolutely. That doesn't mean I'm ever going to stop going for it. And really, it's a really great primary question to ask yourself. Is hanging out with this person going to get me closer to my jet? If the answer is no, be brutal. Is what I'm doing right now in my business going to get me closer to a jet? The answer is, it's just a simple yes or no. It's binary. And if you can really show some discipline and guts and leadership, you'll make the chops, because it's important to you. Because I know that, Christine, if I own a jet and you own your big beach house, how many people have literally, that we will never know their names, will have got money from us to make a difference in our lives? Like, we both are aiming at giving a lot away to charity, and we already do. Well, us being richer means more money goes to charity, more people get helped, and more families that are in our circle that are employed by us, and businesses that we help who have families. Like, it's a flow-on effect. It takes guts to stand up for what you believe in and actually do this stuff. So if you didn't hear it before, you want to be a leader, stop defending what you're doing to losers. That's it.
Boom. There's your microphone drop right there. I love it. And how dare someone tell you how big to dream? You know, like, honestly, guys, like, don't let anyone ever tell you your dreams are too big. So a really cool activity to do, though, is to think about the lifestyle that you would love from where you are right now. What lifestyle would you actually love to lead? And then think about what would the mortgage cost for that home, or what would the rent cost for you to rent out the penthouse, or you know, what would you spend on food, organic, you know, beautifully fresh, farm fresh food? Would you have a private chef? Would you have a cleaner? You know, what car would you drive? Would you be paying it off? Like, line all this up. What are your expenses to live that dream life? And then you need to add some, obviously, because you don't just want to be paying bills, but a lot of people don't even break it down like that, Joel, to know what it would actually cost to live that dream life. Like, have a think about it. Like, how cool would it be to go and pay cash for a house and not even have to use the bank at all? You know, so figure out what your dream life looks like, and figure out the expenses that would be coming in for you in order for you to live that, and then work backwards. You know, what's that first step that you can take? What's that first milestone you would need to achieve? And you have to attach the emotion to it. Joel spoke about the emotion in the beginning of the podcast. You know, the emotion, the feeling, you know, using your senses once you've achieved that is so important. You've got to attach, you can't skip that step. And Joel, guess what they're doing to my house? They're turning it into 6 units.
Oh, no.
I know, right?
But I bet you there's a better one out there for you.
Yeah, I think there's definitely going to be a better one for me. Yeah. Well, guys, that was it. Another podcast done and dusted. We hope that you just live more awarely. Is that a word, more awarely? You have more awareness. You have more awareness about where you are and how you're showing up and which side of the line are you on. And if you are sitting there thinking, this is the kick up the ass that I needed. Good. Like, do something about it. Shift, pivot. Don't just sit there and complain. Like, get up and do something. So many people, Joel, are complaining about what's going on in the world right now and the way that the government's reacting and this and that. Well, shift your thought pattern. Go and get educated. Like, change your circumstances. Some of these things we have to start from the ground up. We can't wait for the government. We can't wait for the big organizations. We can't do that. We've got to start changing it in our own household and go from there. And then we'll have that flow on effect. We'll be creating ripples in our community, in our extended family. And then that's going to catch on. So, Joel, did you want to close it out? Any final comments from you?
Christine, like, honestly, entrepreneurs and business owners are the ones that are going to get us out of this mess. If we wait for the government,
agreed,
we are literally going to be waiting forever, because most of these politicians, and they're really getting found out now, they shouldn't even be running the school canteen, let alone our country. Like, honestly, they literally, I don't know what else to say. You got to take responsibility. It's not gonna knock on your door. And if you keep on saying later, it's never going to happen, because later never comes. You must literally get off this podcast and go take action towards changing your life, making it better, making more money, being more spiritual, being healthier, having better relationships, because it's not a joke. And I hope you have the intelligence to just take this seriously, because, no matter what you believe in this current meat suit, this is your one shot. So how do you want it to be? How do you want it to go? And that's it. Have a most outstanding day.
Love that.
Damn. Yeah.